IO module, next one is chassis or backplane, next one is power supply, and then programming software that runs on PLC. So the basic components in first one is the PLC processor or controller. So basically processor is the only important thing which will process the input signals and whatever the program is written inside the memory of PLC, and it will also send signal to the output to control any process. So processor is only processing whatever computation and whatever arithmetic operations has to be performed. All these things depend upon the speed of processor. The next point here, see, we are having a picture in which we are having the central processing unit. This is what central processing unit, which is the main component of any PLC. So it is basically what doing, it is processing the data. It will take the data from the memory. The data present inside the memory is programmed as per our requirement using a computer system. So computer system here is what actually used to program the memory of the PLC. So whatever is the program which is to be uploaded into the memory of the PLC, and the changes in number of IOs. There are number of IOs present inside the PLCs. These IOs has its own state. So whatever change is going on inside the input modules and input terminals of the PLC, that has to be scanned by the processor of the PLC, and accordingly it will produce the output. Okay, so there may be different types of output which has to be controlled. It can be a motor or LED or heater, ovens, etc. All these things will be controlled using this PLC system itself. See, there is one more important thing called power supply. So there is also a power supply module present inside the modular type of PLC, which will be ensuring that each and every module is getting enough power supply. So all these equipments are basically the major components of PLCs which are used inside the PLC itself. Okay, so next point here is central processing unit. We have already discussed about all these things. The central processing unit is a part of a programmable controller that retrieves, decodes, stores, and processes the information. Obviously, the processor will process the information as per the speed, and it will produce the output. It also executes the control program stored inside the memory. Whatever the program is written inside the memory of PLC, it will be scanning it, and accordingly it will be taking the action. Okay, its function is in the same way. Obviously it will also work in the same way as it is our as a computer system does. Okay, so all these things are performed using the processor. Basic component next is IO modules. IO modules basically say there are different types of IO modules present. It can be either analog IO module or digital IO module. So in case of analog IO modules, as already discussed, that there are two types of signal, digital and analog signals. In case of digital signals, we'll be having only two states. So either it can be 0 or 1. Similarly, if you talk about analog IO modules, there will be having 0 to 100% of value. Value can vary from 0 to 100% at any value. It is basically an analog signal. So accordingly, see what happens here. The processor will understand only what? Machine language. So machine language is basically in the form of binary language, or machine language, we can say zeros or one form of language. So our analog modules will convert the whatever the signal coming from the field, either it is 0 to 24 volt, that is digital signal, or from 4 to 20 milliampere, or 0 to 10 volt signal, which is basically analog signal, which has to be converted in the form of zeros and ones so that our processor can understand that. And then the processor will produce this output as per the program written inside the PLC, and it will produce again the output in the form of zeros and ones. Again, the zeros and one cannot be used for controlling the load devices like motors, control valves, whatever is present. They cannot be controlled from the direct output of PLC or direct output of the processor. So first they again needs to be converted into form of 0 to 10 volt signal, or 4 to 20 milliampere signal, or 0 to 24 volt, 0 or 24 volt of signal, so that we can operate our external devices through the output. Okay, so processor is basically the main thing here is processor will only the process data which is in the form of machine language. So our modules input, if you talk about input module or whether it is output module, their work is to convert that data into the form of processor friendly language, right? We can say processor friendly language. Okay, this is how modular type of PLC is. So here we are having rack at the back side. So all these modules, all the CPU modules, or analog input module, digital input modules, all these are connected to the rack inside the PLCs. They are given a power supply. Each and every module here is getting a power supply using power supply module. So all these racks present, all the modules which are inside the rack, they all are getting power supply using this rack only. Actually, we also call it as backplane. Backplane is basically used to transfer power supplies to all the modules, and also it has a work to transfer all the signals from CPU, and also transfer the signals from analog input module to the CPU. All these things are done using backplane or rack itself. Okay, so here we are having different brands of PLCs now. So different brands of PLCs include Medicon, AB, Allen Bradley PLC, ABB,